Okay, so this week's reflection vlog is on Power by Linda Hogan. And we were discussing in lenses about symbolism, setting, atmosphere, and mood. There was a lot of symbolism throughout this whole book, and that's really what I want to focus on. The setting per se was mostly in the same few places throughout the whole book. It was mostly in the woods, in her boat, mostly in the beginning of the book, throughout this, like in the actual eye of the storm, which was an actual setting. I'm just gonna say the main character as opposed to saying her name because I don't want to butcher her name. So the main character was actually caught in the eye of the storm. And when I think of the eye of the storm, I just think of like that is the peak of everything where everything just started going crazy. If you go back to the beginning of the book, it talks about how she brings up the point that she is sleeping in her boat. And then it makes you wonder, why is she sleeping in her boat? But we don't get any more details about that until chapter 2. In chapter 2, she explains that her boat symbolizes, what I got from it, symbolizes protection. It is her security. That is her safe place, because she says, and I quote, "It's the safest place there is," because she wants to get away from her stepfather, who gives the mood of like danger. He makes everybody, especially the readers, understand that he is dangerous. He is a pedophile. So yeah. And Hogan makes it clear that the main character, her mood towards her stepfather, unsettling, and he makes her uncomfortable. Now, back in the beginning, if I go back to the beginning of the book, her name, Amishto, I don't want to, that's the only time I'm gonna pronounce it. Her name means the girl who watches, which kind of is ironic when it later comes in the middle of the book, around, I believe, chapter 2. Chapter 2 is when they actually get into the juicy part of the book, is when she witnesses the death of the panther. So it's kind of ironic how her name means watch, the girl who watches, and she watches the killing of the panther. Now it says that her grandma said that she has a strong wind inside of her and she sees deep into what's around her. I believe that that means that she has a deep connection with the past and she's spiritually connected to things, so more so than her mother is, because her mother does not connect to her roots. Her mother does not understand her roots. And we also do find out later in the book at the end where she ends up reverting back to her roots. She goes back and learns more about her roots and her culture versus westernization or westernized cultures. Now, they mention a lot about the storm and the wind. In their culture, the wind represents, it's a spirit. I want to mention how in the story, the main character mentioned over and over again how Alma's house was old and raggedy and rinkety, and she just repeatedly said how old it is, and she specifically wanted to everybody to know how old it is. But then when it came to the storm, everything else in the town seemed to be destroyed, yet Alma's house was still standing. And that just makes me think that the author wants us to realize that that house symbolizes Alma as a person. It's strong, it's old, it looks rinkety and raggedy, but it survived the toughest storm. And I just think that compares to Amma, because even throughout the trial, when she had to go on trial for killing the panther, she was strong. She didn't let anything destruct her. If anything, there was 2 storms in the book: the physical storm and the trial, and the aftermath of the trial. The trial was a storm for Amma. There is a big picture here in the whole book that I want to go over, is how a lot of the book symbolizes ancestral knowledge, and how she wants to make sure that she repeats a lot of the same words over and over again, because she wants to make sure that the culture does not die, because it seems as it is, because Western civilization is taking over, which is what happened. The people came in, took over their land, colonized it, and now their culture is being disappeared, it's being erased. All the way in the beginning of the book, this page right here, it says mystery is a form of power. That mystery is gold. And the gold, not necessarily gold. It is land, the people, the culture. I do want to say that she did mention what the storm symbolized on page 73. The storm symbolized the beginning and the end of something. Their culture symbolizes and uses animals to symbolize their god. Like in power, their culture uses Sissa, which is a panther, as their god. More so, like, it's godlike. That panther came first and it taught them the world. That is why it was so serious for the killing, for her to go on trial. The connection I got with this part, when Amma didn't want them to know why the cat was sick, I believe because if they knew that the cat was sick, then it would just mean that something is wrong with their culture. Because if their godlike creature is sick, something bad is going to happen if they find out that they are getting sick. Something is happening to their culture, which everybody knows is just being erased because everybody is so whitewashed. One more thing that I do want to point out is how the snakes in the book, what they symbolize. They can symbolize a lot of things, but right now I think I want to focus on how in different cultures they mean different things. Like in Christianity, snakes mean danger, but in this culture, like any indigenous cultures, like the one that's based in power, the snake can represent strength. And the last thing I do want to mention is how she mentions Methuselah, the old tree. It fell over and died during the storm. I believe that Linda Hogan is comparing the tree to the new generations. The new generations are falling over and dying, which is leading to their tradition dying, their culture dying.